According to UN, this day provides us with an opportunity to broaden the basis for an enlightenment opinion. Livestock forms an important livelihood support for majority of people all over the world. With changing dietary habits and lifestyles, the demand for livestock products has been growing faster, which has triggered the need to increase the livestock production at a faster pace. In this situation, livestock and agriculture have to operate hand in glove to prevent damage to environment through prevention of excessive grazing by livestock, avoid deforestation for crop cultivation, and proper management of livestock, which are considered to be responsible for greenhouse gas emissions. Thus, an ecological livestock system would help to integrate cropping and livestock production for better management of nutrients and recycling of limited resources. Now, a question for us to ponder upon is how good or bad are livestock for environment? Then are domestic animals part of problem or part of the solution? It is not easy to reply. It can be both. It depends upon the system of rearing and method of management of animals. Environmental protection is an important aspect of Islam. Being stewards of earth, it is the responsibility of the Muslims to take care of environment in a protective manner. There is a definite purpose behind the creation of different species, be it plants or animals. Muslims are encouraged to reflect on the relationship between living organisms and their environment to maintain the ecological balance created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Protection of environment is essential to Islamic beliefs and mankind has the responsibility to ensure safe custody of the environment. Prophet Muhammad encouraged planting of uh, trees and the cultivation of crops which are considered as good acts, while as Islam is against cutting or destruction of trees unnecessarily. Thus, environmental awareness and protection of natural resources is an integral part of Islamic beliefs as the viceroys of Allah on this earth. We have to utilize natural resources in sustainable manner for our welfare. As humans, we are keepers of all creations, including air, water, animals, and trees. A major objective of Islamic teachings and Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is to build and maintain a healthy and clean environment devoid of any sort of pollution and misuse. At present, global outbreak of deadly coronavirus has affected human lives and various daily activities, but it has improved the air quality and reduced the water pollution. With most of the cities under lockdown, there has been a significant reduction in carbon emissions, which has restored the ecological system to some extent. However, the disposal of medical waste like disinfectants, masks, gloves, and the burden of untreated waste have also increased multifold uh, during the pandemic. Further, once the situation bounces back to normal, the environment may start suffering again. Long-term goals and policies are the need of the hour for environmental sustainability. With these words, I thank the two honorable speakers of the today's webinar to accept our invitation at a very short notice despite their engagements. I'm also thankful to my team of scientists, Dr. Pampuri, Dr. Hai, and other scientists and other staff members associated with this program for making necessary arrangements for conduct of this today's program at a very short notice. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Mande, sir, for your brief but very crisp presentation, crisp talk on the environment, its then protection. Before we invite our lead speakers of the day, We have with us 4 students of our faculty, PG and UG students. They will talk on this theme of today's this environmental day, and that's the ecosystem restoration. So they have been given 5 minutes to present themselves. The first, I will request Dr. Abrar Malik, who is the PhD student. Abrar Malik may unmute himself and he may go ahead with his presentation, please.
Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Esteemed excellencies, dear professors, organizers, colleagues, assalamu alaikum, everyone. Kindly accept my greetings for the World Environment Day and also for the start of what has been designated as the Decade of Ecosystem Restoration by the United Nations. Thank you, sir, for giving me the opportunity to share my views on the topic of ecosystem restoration. As we see the world is going through a recovery period from the COVID pandemic, we find most of the ecosystems in a better shape than they ever were in the recent past. One thing that we all have learned from the last 1.5 years is that the health of our planet impacts the health of humanity. The scenes last year of penguins wandering through the streets of Cape Town and kangaroos hopping through the streets of Adelaide were a glimpse of how better our lives could be if we lived in harmony with nature. We must recognize that the restoration of nature is imperative for the survival of our planet and the human race. Ecosystems are our lifeline for the air we breathe, for the food we eat, and for the water we drink. But pressure on natural resources is increasingly affecting a well-being of 40% of the humanity. And that counts for a whopping 3.2 billion people, 3.2 billion humans to be precise. The pressure thereby fuels poverty and food insecurity. The relationship of humans, as we say, the relationship of human beings is a relationship of responsibility and ethics. Those who ponder upon feel a huge responsibility towards the coordinated universe. And if we intend to prevent and reverse the degradation of our ecosystems, be them the farmlands, our forests, rivers, or oceans, business as usual is not going to be an option now post the COVID-19 pandemic. We need to implement nature-based solutions. We need to implement nature-based solutions to reverse the trend. Land is irreplaceable. That's and environment is the most valuable free thing in the world, and the only thing that all of the creatures share and have a mutual interest in. So now is the time. Now is the time if we actually intend to prevent and reverse this trend. The sustainable goals that we have set, that the world has set, are unlikely to be met unless ecosystem degradation is stopped and restoration is begun at an immense scale. Our planet Earth has been supporting us from billions of years. Now we need to take responsibility to pay back. The pressures on the natural resources will always affect, and they have to affect. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, we have created you from it and in it, and we support you from it, and we will take you back again. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that we support you from it, we need to support it as well. So let's make peace with nature. Let's make peace with nature and maybe be the generation of restoration. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Abrar. You have been to the point there and with a message, yes, with an appeal, with a message. Thank you, Abrar, for this presentation over here. We have been joined by our lead speaker of the day, Professor Shakil Ahmed Ramsu. Most welcome, Professor Shakil Ahmed, over here this morning with our August gathering of faculty and students.
Thank you very much. Always a pleasure.
It's our honor, and always we are really pleased to have you in our meetings, in our training course and all that. वो कहते हैं कि मियाँ की दौड़ मस्जिद तक, तो हमारी दौड़ आप तक ही है. So we always find you with us, cooperating with us. You have been there around us all the time. Thanks for your accepting our invitation at a short notice, and you have made it possible to be there with us this morning. My participants over here कहते हैं कि वो प्रोफेसर साहब हमारे जो है वो किसी तारुफ का मोहताज नहीं है. Everybody is known to everyone. Settle then, Professor Shakil Ahmad Ramsu is presently Dean of Research, University of Kashmir. So he has been there, a professor and head of the Department of Earth Sciences for a long pretty time. He has done his PhD from University of Tokyo. Has a multidisciplinary that approach there. He has been there from you see graduation in forestry, then post-graduation in remote sensing and GIS, then PhD to doctorate in civil engineering and whatnot. So I will not take much of the time. So he is basically a person in our state, in our this UT now I can say, who is a master in water resources, glaciology, integrated environmental analysis, hydrology, erosion, and pesticide modeling. So climate change. He has a vast experience of this environment. So it will be really good to see him over here, to listen to him, and we'll be really blessed with his words of wisdom this morning about the environment. So I simply hand over to Professor Shakil Ramsu. Just go ahead, please, with your presentation, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. So it is always a pleasure to interact with the faculty and the research scholars of the SCOST Veterinary Sciences, Faculty of Veterinary Sciences. So as today is the World Environment Day, and the theme is the ecosystem restoration. So I will briefly provide a status of the environment. That's very difficult to do in in half an hour or even 1 hour. But I would then basically share my thoughts on what it takes to basically really do the ecosystem restoration. How do we what should be the roadmap for ecosystem restoration of the issues that we are facing particularly in the Kashmir Valley. Now, there is no doubt, that we have inherited, or the God has, or the nature, whatever you call, has bestowed us one of the most beautiful landscapes on the surface of Earth. Now, if you look at this image, I hope it's coming up on your screen. So you can see that, it is the 3D image of Kashmir, Jammu Kashmir and Ladakh. Now you can see very mountains, landscapes, picturesque landscapes, glaciers, rivers, forests, and all that. So this is our Kashmir Valley here. Now to the south is the Jammu Pir Panchal here, Pir Panchal Valley. All this, Chenab Valley here, we can see, or Ladakh, you can see Zanskar and Leh and Karakoram here. And so we know it, there's no doubt about that, we know it, that we are inheriting a piece of land, and so we always feel proud, about this couplet, that agar firdos baroi zameen ast, hami ast, hami ast, hami asto. And it is, these type of landscapes, when you see, compare our landscapes with the other landscapes in the rest of the world, in Europe, in North America, or even in the East. So not to speak of the South Asia. So South Asia mein to hai hi hum, we are basically the most beautiful lands. But even when you compare globally also, you realize that yes, we have inherited one of the most beautiful landscape on the surface of Earth. But have we really been, a good custodians of this landscape? I mean, if we go back, if I take you back just few years, I mean, when I say few years, I mean 50 years, 1970s से अगर आप देखते हैं कश्मीर में and you will realize that there has been tremendous, significant degradation of our environment, every aspect of environment. Now, so I feel that this, Firdaus, I don't think, if you look at the indicators, you may still have some good landscapes, beautiful landscapes, but if you look at some of the indicators, probably, many of us may be convinced that it is still not it is not the Jannati Benazir anymore. Now look at the air quality during the autumn and the winter here. I mean, World Health Organization said that Srinagar is among the 10 dirtiest cities in the world as far as the air quality, as far as the particulate matter concentration in Kashmir Valley is concerned in autumn and winter. Your particulate matter concentration in Kashmir in autumn is as bad, or in winter as bad as in Delhi or in Calcutta. So I feel that, we as individuals and we as community or as a government or whatever, we have failed ourselves because we don't appreciate the value of the environment. The services and products and, livelihoods that are dependent on, I mean, we derive all that from these environment. I mean, we don't really care. And we don't care it that we should pass it on as we have received it from our, ancestors. So as a result, the indicators of environmental degradation are everywhere. I will be, giving you a glimpse of some of the data, some of the research that we have done, and probably you will agree at the end that yes, the health of our environment is not, as rosy as we sometimes feel or some people are projecting. And as a result of this, it has not only affected the livelihood of the people, it has basically, even the threat to life. It has increased our vulnerability to disasters. You saw the 2014 floods, 1 trillion economic loss. State government, made this damage assessment report, which says 1 trillion Indian rupees. I have a different take on that. It may not be so high, but, as per our estimates, it is 50,000 crores. It is half a trillion, this almost. So, and then tremendous economic losses because of the reasons we have been, interfering with the environment. So I will come to that probably later also. So, and other thing is, this is not a Kashmir or Jammu Kashmir or Ladakh culture. This is a South Asian culture, or I will call a Asian culture. Lack of wisdom, policies and strategies. There's no question of vision when it comes to dealing with the environment. If you ask, all of us are very, sensitive, very about Dal Lake, let us say. Now, if I ask any one of the people in this, forum, what is your vision of the Dal Lake? Not to speak of the lake manager or the people who are, basically responsible for the lake conservation. Even many of us don't have a vision for the lake. So what we want to see the lake, for me, the vision for Dal Lake is I want to see Dal Lake, whatever it takes. 1,000 crore, 10,000 crore, I want to see Dal Lake, as it was in 1970, when I could go and drink the water without treating the water. And then you do everything, you have a vision document, you have a strategy, and you do everything that is required. And you project how much money is required to make Dal look like 1970. And this is a problem with all of our, whether it is forest, whether it is, so we don't have any strategy, we don't have any vision. So as a result, we don't have any policy. So there is lack of wisdom. And as I said, it is an overall Asian, problem, very ad hoc arrangements. अभी गवर्नर साहब को डल लेक की तरफ आना है, उनको पता चलता है 10 दिन पहले, and you see how the operations are going on. कहीं गवर्नर साहब को जाना है तो रोड्स कैसे देखते हैं आप, मैकेडमाइज्ड हो जाते हैं. So these are all ad hoc measures that we have lived, and we do the day-to-day governance, day-to-day management, day-to-day administration. So it is just based on the ad hocism. So we don't have the strategies or visions for that. And I believe environment is also not a priority. So there are many other priority, especially in this part from 1980s, 88. We have different issues that we face, and environment has become a very serious casualty here. And as I said, that we don't have, Islam had taught us, when we look at it, that this culture of environmental consciousness should have been there, ingrained in our DNA. But we don't have. Look at the way we dispose of our solid waste from the houses. अगर मेरे side में कोई plot खाली है तो सारा, even if I may be a professor or I may be an environmentalist, so this is everywhere. We don't have a culture of, I will say, this disaster conservation or environment. And also, I have never seen any imam delivering a khutbah on Friday on, need for environmental conservation or something like this, how to, scientifically or cleanly dispose of your waste, solid wastes and other things, cleanness and all that. So very few. Now, so also, you saw it as I was just entering the seminar webinar and I saw, I just entered late because I didn't have a link, but somebody was just touching this COVID, pandemic and environment. Now, it has demonstrated, COVID has been, has scared us, it has been very terrible experience. All of us had since last more than a year, but also some things we learned from it. And one of it is basically that restoration of environment is possible. There are many stories otherwise also. If you see in many countries, China, Japan, Germany, Europe, you will see many countries where they have, been able to restore the environment, but at a huge cost. At a huge cost. We are basically a developing country. We cannot afford to spend so much of money to restore the, the degraded environments. But we have success stories where if you have money, you can restore the environment back. And if you have a good strategy, good vision, you can do it. But this COVID showed us that, if we slow down, when I say not only our own activity, industrial activity, everything, related to the human activity, when it slows down, the nature takes care of itself and it starts, restoring itself. I will show you some the data, and it's not possible to discuss it a lot, but so it is possible. I will show you that how the air quality in Kashmir during the pandemic last year significantly came down. Similarly, as I said at the end, I will just talk about what it takes to have a restoration project. Small steps. I think is a decade. The UN has designated this decade as a decade for restoration, ecosystem restoration. So they say that it will take 10 years to restore. If we start taking measures right now, we know it is easy said than done. We know how the climate change, United Nations, framework convention on climate change is going on. Many other things. There are a lot of issues when global issues are concerned. So, but if we really have to make some beginnings, so how do we do it? So I will be briefly talking about that at the end. Now, climate change. I think there is no doubt. I think this debate was sealed in 1997 with the Kyoto Protocol, in Kyoto in Japan. So I think there was a almost total consensus among the nation states that climate change is real, and we need to take certain steps to, to basically we can't stop the climate change, minimize the climate change. And as academic, as students, how things have been unfolding since 1997 when the Kyoto Protocol was, signed and was ratified by, by the most of the nation states, including few countries at that time, Russia and America, but then they also joined it, and we know how it is going on, the negotiations, Paris Agreement, Copenhagen, many. So as I said, it has not really reached to the conclusion, but the countries are committed. They are doing certain steps, and this climate change we have seen it in Kashmir. From the data, you see sometimes you have a very heavy snowfall, and then sometimes you have very dry, snowless like lands. And this climate change basically impacts many of the aspects of the environment. And one of the, I always say, the most important resource, the state of Jammu, erstwhile state of Jammu, Kashmir, and Ladakh is the water resource. And I don't know how many of you know that 90% of the irrigated agriculture of Pakistan is irrigated by the waters that emanate from Jammu, Kashmir, and Ladakh. We have the highest per capita water availability in the South Asia. It may be, if you don't get 24/7 water in your homes, don't say that it is climate change, or don't say it is a water resource problem. It is a water governance problem. The government has not been able to put up the infrastructure, water infrastructure, so that you can have, 24/7 water. So you have a lot of water. A country, you are, 90% of the, how much water we drink compared to many of you may be here from the, plant sciences background. So thirsty crops, paddy takes so much of water. And I'm saying you 90% of the irrigated paddy of Pakistan is drained by our waters. So you can imagine कि हम कितना पानी पीते हैं और वो fields के comparison में, so you should have water everywhere. And we do have water. We have about 12,000 glaciers in Jammu, Kashmir, and Ladakh. This water that comes, it comes from the glacier. The water that you drink every day, 65% of it comes from snow and glaciers on an average. So sometimes it may be 100%, but sometimes, nowadays all the water in this, rivers is snow melt. When you see in the autumn, all the water in the rivers is glacier melt. But on an average, you have, 65% of the water from snow and glacier. So it is a very important resource, and climate change is impact. And we are seeing enhanced melting of these glaciers. If the current trend of this climate, continues, so you will, probably a lot of glacier cover. In Kashmir Valley, I have, projected that by end of this century, you will have 70% less. So under the, most plausible climate change scenario. So we are losing it. Similarly, what is happening to that? And that's a very serious concern. I may have a slide at somewhere where I will, show you. We need water now. You will see now, those of you who are from the villages, the transplanting of paddy starts in June. And by 21st of June, I would say 95% of the transplanting of paddy stops. And paddy is our main crop here. Paddy needs basically a thin film of water. Always it should have water. And if you look at the historical water availability in Kashmir, you have, June, July, August, you have the maximum water. And it is the time when we require it the most. Now, what I'm seeing is that there's a shift in the availability of water, stream flow, peak. Now we are getting a lot of water in April, May, and this trend will continue, and you will have a lot of water by end of this century in April itself, in May itself, in June, and July and August, you may not have water. I mean, that's a serious concern. I have been raising this concern for the last 5-6 years. So, and we don't have the storages. Kashmir, we don't have the storages where we can store water and then use it in June, July, August, September. Though under the Indus Water Treaty, we are, entitled to almost 1.25 million acre feet of water, which is enough for us to store a lot of water. But we don't have the infrastructure. We have not been able to put those dams in the valley or in the Chenab Basin. We have started now, but so this is a concern that by end of this century, your food security will be at danger. And similarly, another environmental concern, land system changes. We are seeing massive land system changes in the Kashmir Valley, particularly. Since 1952 up to now, there is a almost 3,000% increase in the horticulture. People are shifting from paddy to horticulture all over the Kashmir. And this is not driven by climate change. This is purely driven by the economic considerations. We did a lot of work on this. We asked the people, interviews, various ways. So most of it is driven by the, almost 90% of it is driven by the economic consideration. हाँ, कहीं खासकर नॉर्थ कश्मीर में कहीं पर पानी की कुछ कमी है, जहाँ पर लोगों ने they have shifted to horticulture because of lack of water. Now, this is good for us from economic reasons. I mean, we have a horticulture sector is a 6,000 crore sector. 6,000 plus 6,500 crore is a very important sector of economy. And if you look at the last financial, this survey, so economic survey, it shows that it has a potential to go up to 30,000 crores revenue. So it needs to be promoted, no doubt, but it needs to be promoted in a way that is sustainable. Now, not to speak of the health impacts of this conversion of agriculture to horticulture. Already, if you look at, there are many studies from the Sikkims where we say the incidence and frequency of cancers and tumors among the orchardists is highest because of the reckless use of pesticides. So similarly, now what is happening in Kashmir, this air quality has deteriorated significantly. And the most, I would say the single most important reason is the expansion of horticulture. We have not been able to build the technical capacity of the orchardists to scientifically dispose of this pruned material. When they start pruning these, horticulture, these trees, they just traditionally, as have been there, just burn it. And then see in autumn and winter, particularly the autumn. In November, December, you see very high concentration of particulate matter. And this massive expansion of horticulture here has basically led to this, very significant increase in the, particulate matter, both PM 2.5 and PM 10 and black carbon we are seeing here. Now, if you look, horticulture crops are not only in Kashmir. Horticulture, the entire Europe has horticulture crops. The entire China, if you go from east to west, north, south of China, you will see everywhere apples, everywhere fruits. If you go to North America, you see we have failed here, Agar aap just Google, go to Alibaba, website, Google the pellet making machine. It costs you just 3 lakh, 4 lakh, 5 lakh rupees. Instead of burning this pruned material, you could have converted it into the pellets, wood pellets, very dense wood pellets. It would have fed to the growing need for the hammams in the towns. Every third house in Srinagar that's coming up now has a hammam. So there's a need for wood, and where from that wood comes? We're cutting the trees. Now this would have been built environmentally, it would have been safe. It would have generated livelihood of the people, but it is not happening here. Though it is not the first time I'm talking, maybe some of you have heard me talking this. I have talked it in different forums everywhere that we need to scientifically dispose of this. We will basically take care of many things. We'll kill not 2 birds, we'll kill many birds with 1 stone. But it is not, I think it is not happening. And as a result, the air quality is, very bad here, particularly during the autumn and winter because of the reasons I told you. Wetlands and water bodies, you are, how we deal with the wetlands and water bodies in Jammu Kashmir, Ladakh. Whenever there is a need for an infrastructure project, चाहे वो रेलवे हो, चाहे वो कोई बिल्डिंग बनानी हो, चाहे कुछ भी हो, the first, choice is the wetland. Wetland, and these are treated as wastelands here. Now, we even after 2014, we should have realized the importance of the wetlands. Kashmir, topographically, I showed you the picture, first picture. Very, it looks mountains, but we in Kashmir know Kashmir is pretty flat. From south to north of Kashmir, it has a gradient of just about 15 meters. In elevation, in the valley floor, there is a difference of just 15 meters only. So it is a pretty flat territory. That is why you see a lot of waterlogging, many things happening in the valley floor. And nature or God had, it had given us the beautiful landscape also. It has made us very vulnerable to most of the disasters, chahe wo earthquake ho, chahe flood ho, because this type of territory, flat territory, are very prone to floods. But at the same time, it had created a defensive mechanism. On left and right of Jhelum, it had created a lot of wetlands and water bodies. आज भी अगर आप श्रीनगर से बाहर नॉर्थ कश्मीर की तरफ जाएंगे, बारामूला की तरफ, so you will see still many wetlands are there, still there, but they used to be just everywhere there, because the only one functionality was basically flood functionality. They used to give us some products, fish, nadru, services, other things, but primarily wetlands की यहाँ पर जो functionality nature ने रखी है, that is a flood protection. जो ही दरिया जहलम में पानी आ जाता तो it will go into these wetlands and it will store there till October, and October में फिर it will come back to the river because river water will be very low. Now you see last 30 years data, your autumn season is very, very dry. Your Jhelum level, sometimes you can see the bottom of the Jhelum because आपके पास जो resources थे, जो sources थे ground water recharge के river Jhelum को, they have all dried. Most of them have dried. In and around Srinagar city, 22 wetlands have been converted into colonies. Many of you may be living in those colonies. Bemina was a wetland in 1972 से पहले. Rajbagh, Jawahar Nagar, ये secretariat जब बना, तो people started moving to the South Srinagar city. Otherwise, South Srinagar city was always flood prone, wetlands. So because secretariat moved there, so Jawahar Nagar was the first colony, and we saw it. The two areas that were highly most affected by the floods were Jawahar Nagar and Rajbagh, because they were, they are low-lying areas. Now, the problem here is that, we have lost so many wetlands and water bodies in Kashmir because of our callous attitude, and still the process is going on. There is no stop to it. Similarly, the solid waste, mismanagement. वेरीनाग से ले लीजिए और उड़ी तक देख लीजिए, सारे जितने भी टाउन्स हैं, including Srinagar city, just dump their solid waste into that, and also the wastewater into Srinagar city. There is no STP of any town, any city, that discharge. Even our, ADB had been very kind to give us this drainage project, big, but it goes untreated into the, river. All उसे drain से जाता है, तो it goes either into the flood channel and then ultimately it goes to the Jhelum. So we know that we have been, very indisciplined, I will say, in, in solid waste management. We have tourism-related issues, to the environment. चाहे वो यात्रा हो, चाहे वो आप खुद जब हम जाते हैं कहीं, आप देख लीजिए what we have done with the Sonmarg or Gulmarg or Pahalgam. Not a pilgrimage tourism, and that's an added pressure on this, no doubt. But I'm saying when we also go, the way we have developed these places. So there's a Thajwas glacier in the Sonmarg, and that is one of my benchmark glaciers. And when I, was monitoring it, and I saw that black carbon concentration is very high. And one of the reasons for the enhanced melting of the glaciers is the black carbon. It is like, you put a suit on that snow, and you will see अगर आपके कभी 2 फुट स्नो पड़ेगी 1 फुट तो आप उस पर सूट फेंके तो you will see that it will melt just within 1 day और आपके बगल में जो स्नो होगा वो 10 दिन रहेगा. So same way when this black carbon deposit is on the glaciers, they absorb solar radiation more and so I observed this because there's a lot of rush of vehicles, especially the diesel, operated vehicles, and then they emit the black carbon a lot. And then there were many of the small, food stalls had come up to cater to the tourists, and they were burning the wood also. And then I gave a report to the Honorable High Court, and they stopped. Now you can't go from Bowal to the Thajwas Glacier using your car. I mean, that is very, that is good for your health. If you really want to go to Gulmarg, Sonmarg, you want to enjoy the glacier, so please have a walk for 2 kilometers, 3 kilometers. And it is good for your health. It is good for the environment also. But look at other aspects of the development, infrastructure development in these tourist places. It is unscientific hodgepodge. The Tourism Development Authority constitution has become a political. Now we don't have so much politics here, but previously every MLA wanted to have his constitution somewhere. He wanted to have a Tourism Development Authority because they will get 5 crore rupees initially. That is very good. These are good places, develop them as tourist places. But before these 5 crores or 20 crores or 10 crores are spent, please have an environmental management plan. Please have a master plan. You may be very surprised to know none of the tourist development authorities in Kashmir, which are 20, 30 years old, have a master plan. Pahalgam master plan tha, which I found 105 discrepancies in that master plan, and that was rejected by the Honorable High Court. Abhi tak bhi Gulmarg mein nahi ban raha hai. Sonmarg mein aadha kiya, and then again we rejected that master plan because it was environmental unfriendly. You see what has happened to all these. Recently, you have been, in the news, you have been river mining, sand mining. So I will not basically speak much about it because I'm in the committee that, gives permissions for these mines. So, but, I mean, there's a lot of, mismatch in the clearances and the implementation that is being done. And the way it is being done is basically, not very scientific. I mean, though on papers we clear that we have a mining plan, we have everything, but on the ground it is happening in a very, haphazard way, unscientific way. And many of the other infrastructure development projects, railways ho, highways ho, ya aur bhi projects ban rahe hai abhi, you must have seen a lot of industrial estates are coming up and all that. I mean, that is, many other, civilian, military infrastructure projects are coming up here. So I think that's a concern. Whether they will be, go as per a very strict, environmental impact assessment and then adhere to those guidelines and all that. And it is, I have no problem in saying that environmental impact assessment reports are a shoddy pieces of document in this country. There are very strict environmental, protection. There's EPA, Environmental Protection Act. Ministry of Environment and Forest does it and very well, drafted everything. But the reports, chahe wo hydropower projects or infrastructure projects, so koi bhi, so these are very shoddy pieces of documents and they are not implemented, on the ground. There's no monitoring, there's no evaluation after that. I think these are some of the issues that I wanted to highlight. I will quickly, whatever I said, I will just quickly go through it. And I just want to know how much time I have.
Yes, Professor Shakil, I think you have exhausted your time. Probably.
Okay, so I will just go to the last part I was talking about.
Okay.
Because I just talked everything that I wanted to talk except one thing.
Exactly.
So, yeah. So I just I will just go to the last part. I was just saying this is basically Kashmir that will be by end of this century. So you will have horticulture almost everywhere here. Anyway, so this is done. So let me talk to this, this So it is, basically it is very important for us that I was, some of the thoughts I was putting up yesterday that, how to build the next generation, environmental conscious next generation. And this hashtag generation restoration, this is by the UN. So let us have a new generation, which is restoration, ecosystem restoration constant. I think it is very important, I mean, we can't do it, as I said, in 10 years, we can't do it everything, but at least, the government or the whatever, whosoever is interested, I think we need to identify a problem for action. Whether it is Dal Lake, whether it is a Khushal Sir, whether it is a in Mohalla mein aapko, solid waste ki problem hai, yeah, it could be a larger mega project for the, and then we need to basically have a right team, right experts, so it is not that, that era of, very sectoral thinking or sectoral expertise, it doesn't work nowadays. So you need to have basically a, multidisciplinary approach. In your team, you need to have a sociologist, you need to have an economist, you need to have a veterinarian, you need to have a, environmentalist or hydrologist. So it is very important. And then we define and try to understand the problem. So with these expertise, if you have the right team, right expertise, probably they will be able to define and understand that problem. And, it doesn't come on the table, or it doesn't come with that understanding, does not come in a room. So you need to have surveys, you need to have perception mapping, secondary data, and all that generate the knowledge. So this is very important. And also, we have failed. Many of the programs I see have failed restoration plans because they are not connected. They are not connected to the stakeholders. So it is very important for us to have community network, and they should be part of this restoration. चाहे वो self-help groups हो, चाहे आपके colleges में, universities में clubs बनाए या NGO बनाए. I think unless and until you make these as part of the restoration, program, I think the government programs are not able to, basically make that desired impact. And once you have these, the team, project team, that you have the networks. And it is very important to develop basically a mechanism for long-term involvement and coordination among these all, the government, the civil society, or the academia, whosoever. And so, and also I feel that it is very important to, have some, awareness programs where you fix the social responsibility. It is very important to have, incentivize or to, the best practice, adopt the best practice, shifting the behaviors. I mean, why to give subsidy on, let us say, pesticides, I would say, because it is environmental. I mean, so this, I think there has to be a lot of, this thinking on this, that the best practices need to be promoted and bad practices need to be taxed. And when you do that, probably, you will maybe, so you'll be able to have a successful strategy, this restoration program. And it is very important, I mean, research has to be a part of it, whether it has to be monitored and evaluated before, during, and after that. So I think there is a need. I mean, every project, if you see in, not in South Asia, but in other countries, you will see these restoration projects, there's a strong, investment in the research. हमारे पास यहाँ Dal Lake में, I know it because I have been member of scientific advisory committee for last almost 16-17 years. वहाँ पर भी एक research and monitoring wing है. But it needs to be strengthened in a way that they are able to generate knowledge, and that helps to guide your future plans. And also funding. This is, I tell you that there are a lot of funding resources available. And I feel that even at the government level, they are not able to utilize the funding. Suppose climate fund, I don't know how many projects have gone from Jammu and Kashmir on the climate fund. I know Gujarat has done very well. Andhra Pradesh has done. So government, there are a lot of money is there. Even at the national level, there's a lot of money, but you just read it that this remains unutilized at the government because the state governments are not able to approach that. पहले तो उनके लिए एक बहुत बड़ा challenge होता है DPR बनाना. DPR बनाना ही because it needs a lot of expertise and all that. I think So it is very important to identify the, this funding resources, and there are a lot of funding resources available for any of these restoration, ecosystem restoration program. And then once this all is done, so one need to define the roles of everybody that is involved in it. चाहे वो NGO हो, चाहे वो एक individual हो, चाहे वो college हो, चाहे university हो, whosoever is a partner has been identified as a stakeholder in that project. I think that needs to be done. And since these type of developments, advancements recently, and I make use of many of these tools for my research, whether it is the citizen science, whether it is the crowdsourcing, and whether it is the open science data sharing or social media, internet, smartphones. So I tell you, my students are somewhere in the order at this time, and in the morning, whatever data they just with their own smartphones, we have developed an app, and just immediately I get that. जितने भी हमारे stations, weather stations या rain gauges कश्मीर में है, so immediately we get on real time, that is internet we use. So nowadays there is a lot of advancement in the in fields which we could not think of, let us say 10 years before. Snowfall hoti hai, my project is snowfall monitoring. If I just put it on the internet or on my Facebook, that what is the snowfall at this, so you get all this data. It may be you need to do some analysis, or you need to basically filter some of that information, but I think it is possible. So with these, I have already taken extra time. So with these, some of my thoughts, I just conclude. And if anybody has any question or query, I will be happy to answer it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Shakil, for your nice presentation and your insights, and then your appeals. That's good to see you here in this platform over here. I could see that really whether we are really the custodians of this beautiful land. That's questionable. But I could find that in our, the belief in our Islam, I could see a hadith from Abu Sa'id al-Khudri. He reports that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam narrates that the world is sweet and green, and verily Allah is going to install you as vicegerents in it in order to see you how you act. So probably there is a very good lesson from the hadith also, that we are the custodians and we will have to act like that. Otherwise, we'll have to face the consequences. So if any query is there from the audience, very brief and short, please go ahead. Unmute yourself and go ahead with your query, please. Am I audible to you? Anybody wants to have some clarifications from Professor?
Yes.
Who is there? Ansar? Ansar, you want to have some clarification?
Sir, at the cost of this deforestation, people are expanding the urbanization. So I think it will be very difficult to prevent. How we can achieve this, sir?
Ansar is from Ranchi, is it so?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, yes, we have Dr. Ansar from Ranchi. Okay.
So you are saying that, urbanization, how we can, stop it, or we will not be able to stop it?
So day by day, this city is going on increasing, and people are cutting these trees, and there is lack of this land. So I think it is very difficult, sir. People are not this.
Yeah, you are right. I mean, the population is increasing, and there's a need for housing. It increases. But I tell you, suppose the problem with the urbanization in India, all over India and South Asia, is that we are unfortunately growing horizontal. There is but if you see that, if we really want to minimize the footprint of the urbanization, the urban planners, the town planners in this country have to think of, growing vertically. I mean, I think that is the only way we can, minimize the expanse of the urbanization. Now, if you see in the developed countries, so you don't see, it is a luxury to have a one-story house. So you have most of the, buildings, you will see public buildings or multi-story apartments and all that. हमारे यहाँ पर भी दिल्ली में या मुंबई में या बैंगलोर में you can see the apartments 20 or 15 story. I think that is one way to basically decrease the urbanization, footprint we will have to think of. And there are a lot of merits for growing vertically, all over the country.
Thank you, Professor Shakil.
I have a question.
You can just put off your screen, please.
Hello, I have a question, sir.
Oh, FD Sheikh.
Yes, sir, from Leh.
Sure. Go ahead, please, briefly.
Sir, you have said that one of the solutions for this pollution created by horticulture is making that firewood pellet and using hammam. So, sir, in that case also there will be a burn, there will be a smoke. So how it will prevent the environmental pollution? Yeah, so very, very important question. So you see, we burn this wood and we burn it for charcoal, this horticulture produce, these pruned materials. Now, and for our hammams, we also cut the trees to basically provide fuel wood to that. And these pellets, if you look into this, these are very high dense. I use the word high density pellets. The calorific value of these pellets is very high. So you don't need as much as, if you use other forms of wood, let us say willow people use here or some other, which is not very dense. So you basically need a lot of wood to burn this. So you in a way are completely, stopping the open burning of the pruned material. So it will be converted into pellets. So one, you are basically stopping the release of these particulate matter there. Now, your second question is that from the hammams are already burning their wood, and they are burning very less dense, wood. So at least from horticulture, you can reduce when you convert into the pellets, wood into pellets, you don't basically, it is not you don't burn it. The transformation of pruned material into pellets is just basically you convert them into the high dense wood pellets, and you stop the burning and emission of the particulate matter. And if you use them into the hammams, you are basically stopping the cutting down of the trees that is now used for reducing. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Professor Shakil. Since we are running short of time, so I won't take much of the time over here. I will directly just request our students, probably let us have in between our students there. Is it there Hasib Saqib? If Hasib Saqib is there, he may please unmute himself and go ahead with his presentation shortly. Within 5 minutes, he will have to conclude it.
Assalamu alaikum, sir. Sir, am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible. Please go ahead.
Okay, sir. Respected Dean of the Faculty, the organizers of this program, and the esteemed guests, and all the other members of the webinar. Assalamu alaikum, and my warm greetings to all of you. Yesterday, I was going through WhatsApp, and suddenly a message popped up in a group. It was from a news channel, and the headline was, "Leopard mauls a child in Budgam." Instantly, a debate flared in the group, where some participants blamed the man-eater turned leopard. Some blamed the parents of the child for being careless, and some others, the wildlife authorities. I was following the conversation very keenly when a gentleman subtly dropped a message claiming that the leopard attack was an outcome of habitat encroachment by us. This sparked yet another conversation where people from different disciplines started narrating their perspective of the impact of humans on the environment and how that shapes our environment. All they were discussing about was the anthropogenic impact on the ecosystem around the globe. Ecosystems are complex associations of all the biotic and abiotic components of an environment and the interplay of certain intrinsic and extrinsic forces and phenomena like the nutrient cycles, the flow of energy from the primary producers to the primary consumers that set a balance between the biological processes and the physical processes in an environment. Although the non-anthropogenic factors like the various storms, cyclones, spontaneous bushfires, volcanoes, etc., disrupt the balance of an ecosystem, they are not much significant globally since they are localized and occur at different frequencies. We have been listening about many major threats to the ecosystems out there, like the deforestation, excessive use of pesticides and insecticides. Yet, there are certain factors or human practices that are silently contributing to the ecological imbalance. Different people around the globe love to go for a beautiful vacation, especially on various islands and beaches across the continents. And due to high UV exposure, considerable use of sunscreens and other cosmetic products is seen. Let me share some statistics. It is estimated that 14,000 tons of sunscreen gets washed out into the oceans each year, along with 82,000 chemicals from the cosmetic products alone. These chemicals, like the parabens, the benzophenone, and camphor derivatives, interfere with the coral reproduction and cause their chemical leaching, thereby disrupting the reef ecosystem gradually, which we all know how important is in a marine ecosystem. There are countless more accounts that can be narrated here. One more account from Australia seemed quite intriguing to me. You know, since a few years, there is a state in Australia called New South Wales, where since a few years we had a dry spell. And last year it rained substantially. And due to high rains, all the farmers had to experience a bounty of the different crops that were produced in the region. You know, they were very happy that they had pretty surplus production of crops that year, but unfortunately that turned out to be a disaster because the surplus crops and the grains that were stored in the granaries, they led to an increase in mice and rat infestation. And now everywhere you can see on YouTube, there are rats and mice roaming around, damaging all their properties, you know, even injuring their livestock. Some farmers even state that these mice and rats are biting off the toes of the chickens in their farms. So that is how devastating an impact has, you know, proven on the ecosystem there. And the scientists are speculating that it will take about 5 to 6 years for the natural ecosystem balance to step in and the predators of the mice to increase in population to an extent that this problem is solved out, you know, naturally. So these are some accounts that we can have a look at and that can be used as an example in studying the anthropogenic threats to the ecological balance. And by having a thorough study of each case, we can try to find a remedy, and the collective efforts of all the stakeholders, as explained before by the connoisseurs of the subject, can lead us to a considerable and a substantial solution of all these problems. Now, to have, you know, a different approach towards today's theme, I have prepared a song for my audience that I feel that it is relatable to this year's theme, that is the restoration of the ecological balance. So if the respected organizers of this webinar allow me, I may sing the song in front of all of you.
Okay, if it's very short, go ahead, please.
Yes, sir. It will take me just 2 minutes.
Go ahead, please.
कुदरत की हर शय को समझना, कुदरत की हर शय को समझना फर्ज है, फर्ज है, फर्ज है। इसकी हिफाजत करना हम पर इसकी हिफाजत करना हम पर कर्ज है, कर्ज है, कर्ज है। कुदरत की हर शय को समझना, माहौल में रह के हम जरा ये गौर तो कर ले, माहौल में रह के हम जरा ये गौर तो कर ले, हम भी तो एक हिस्सा है माहौलियात के, हम भी तो एक हिस्सा है माहौलियात के, माहौलियात के। अपने गिरदो पेश सजाना, अपने गिरदो पेश सजाना फर्ज है, फर्ज है, फर्ज है। पेड़ पौधे जानवर चरिंदे और परिंदे, पेड़ पौधे जानवर चरिंदे और परिंदे, इंसान हो हैवान हो या चाहे हो दरिंदे, इंसान हो हैवान हो या चाहे हो दरिंदे, या चाहे हो दरिंदे, सबकी हिफाजत करना हम पर, सबकी हिफाजत करना हम पर फर्ज है, फर्ज है, फर्ज है। कुदरत की हर शय को समझना। थैंक यू वेरी मच।
Thanks a lot, Hasib. This has been very nice. It's really speaks how committed you are towards environment and how you appeals us all to be committed towards our environment. If I'm not wrong over here, is hadith is coming to my mind that Abdullah bin Umar radiallahu ta'ala, and he reports that Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, no doubt every one of you is a shepherd and is responsible for his flock. So every one of us, we are really responsible, and we are not only responsible, rather we are also answerable to it. So thanks a lot for this presentation. Good to hear you. Let me first, before we take any other speaker, lead speaker over here, let me first request Dr. Hina Hamdani. Can you please unmute yourself and go ahead with your presentation, short presentation for 5 minutes.
Sir, Amreen Hamdani. Is that
sure, go ahead, please.
Is my screen visible to all?
Yeah, it's visible. Go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. A very good morning and a very happy World Environment Day to you all. I am indeed privileged to be here to talk about the theme of this year's World Environment Day, ecosystem restoration. As we already know, and it's something that is ingrained in our DNA, that we live in a magical valley. The Valley of Kashmir, with its lofty mountains, with its tall, beautiful trees, with the meadows and the flowing rivers, all of this gives us a deep sense of pride and a reason to cherish all of this. Therefore, we of all people know the importance of nature. We know how important it is to cherish this and to conserve this. Therefore, we must understand and shoulder the responsibility of ecosystem restoration. And to do that, we have to begin somewhere. There has to be a starting point. And as Ramshu sir already emphasized very greatly and very well, that the Dal Lake needs our immediate attention. Our Dal Lake has been dying for a long time now. And indeed, it is a jewel in our Kashmir Valley's crown. And yet it has been dealt with such callousness, such irresponsibility, that hardly any restorative efforts have proven to be successful. And if we do not do anything today, this loss could be irreparable by 2060. So what all can we do? Apart from other stuff, we can, of course, go for private-public partnership, because when the private sector steps in, what essentially happens is that we get results quickly, there is less corruption, and the system comes into a better and more robust shape. Our sewage treatment system is in dire need of immediate upgradation. Our households need a disposal system. We can take examples from Amsterdam, where the houseboats do have their own pumps for all the kind of sewage disposal. There is also need for stringent rules, which may already be present, but their strict implementation is way more important. We also need, of course, awareness campaigns and cleanliness drives. And as sir already said, and I cannot emphasize enough, that we need robust data collection systems for continuous monitoring. Today, we have new techniques, new tools in our hands, like artificial intelligence, machine learning, robotics, all of that together could bring about a very positive change in our environment, in the ecosystem of the Dal Lake especially. And it is also very important to create awareness, as I said. So if we have weekly weather reports for the Kashmir Valley, like they are broadcast everywhere, why don't we have a weekly report about the Dal Lake? It will do two things. One, it will create awareness all around the state. And second, it will emphasize the urgency of the situation. We need to understand what is happening on ground is not happening, is not going to have an effect sometime in the future. It's not going to happen somewhere in a few more decades. It's happening now. So the action has to be taken today. Therefore, we need a system wherein maybe probably the biological oxygen demand of the Dal Lake is taken every week and broadcast. Told the story of the Dal told on the radio, on the video systems, and everywhere. That being said, now if we ask the question, why bother? Why bother saving the Dal Lake in the first place? That is not a question in the first place, of course. It is connected to our livelihood, to our tourism, to our biodiversity, to our culture. It's essentially a part of us. It is essentially a part of all Kashmirians. So along with all of this, it has been seen that if the Dal is conserved with a little initial investment, we could get a net benefit of about 237 billion rupees until 2060. I'm sorry, 2060. So it will be a win-win situation in all directions. But that is only a small part of the big picture. We need to go for global restoration. Starting with something small, we need to expand outwards so that the entire globe can be encompassed. So we need more ideas and efforts on global restoration movement. It has been said by the United Nations that 1 billion hectares of land has already been degraded in the world. And this area is nearly equal to the area of China. So what do we do? A single person cannot do anything, but a single person can take a single step. I can take a single step. And if everyone is committed to an equal level, that would mean we would be taking 7.7 billion steps the world over. A single person cannot, but together we can. This appears to be a very important moment for me to take a pledge. Since this is the first day of the United Nations Decade on Ecosystem Restoration, I take this opportunity to take a pledge to make this my decade on ecosystem restoration. Today, I pledge to make the next 10 years of my life committed to the environment. I will commit my time, my resources, everything in my power to preserve as well as conserve nature. And I'll do everything that is possible for me, whether it's monetary help, whether it's in terms of my effort, my aptitude, whatever it is. I will commit all of it so that if I live to see the next decade, I have something to look back on and be proud. And I hope that you all will join me in my pledge so that together we can make Kashmir and subsequently the whole world a better place for all generations to come. We have very well and very efficiently, not very efficiently, but at least we have endeavored very well to flatten the COVID-19 curve. It is now time to put in similar efforts to flatten the environment degradation curve, because I know if we all step in, together we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Amreen. Yes, together we can. Together we can do anything. So that's really appeal for all of us. And you have taken pledge to have some of the points I could see there. Okay, let's all pledge that and let us take this oath that we all do these little things that can probably serve a good purpose in the interest of the environment. Good to hear you. It's now, thanks a lot, Amarin. It's time for, let us hear to Raja Farhan. He is a UG student, Raja Farhan. If you are there, please unmute yourself.
Assalamualaikum, sir.
Yes, please, Farhan, go ahead with your presentation. Okay. Go ahead, please.
Assalamualaikum, Mahampuri, sir, the host of the meeting, and the Dean, FVSc&AH, and all the valuable teachers and students, juniors or seniors. So I greet you with Assalamualaikum. So as you know, it's a World Environment Day on the 5th of June, and the topic for this year is ecosystem restoration. So first, I will say what's ecosystem restoration. In this, it's a process of assisting the nature in the recovery of ecosystem that has been damaged, degraded, or destroyed for the sustainable living of every creature. Yeah, I would like to focus on the sustainable living. So the sustainable living here means that we will consume the ecosystem in such a way that our future generations are able to consume it in the way we consume it, the we consume. So we had to consume it in a good way. You all agree on the fact that all the ecosystems are degraded to a varying level. I mean, no ecosystem in the world is without the human interference, and that's a threat because we are all linked. Our survival is linked to the ecosystem. We cannot survive without food. We can survive without clothing. We can survive without housing, but the food is a thing without which we cannot survive. The main,
Farhan, you are not audible. Farhan, you are not audible. Farhan, you check your audio, please. Probably we have lost the connection with Farhan. Farhan, am I audible to you? Farhan, I think we have lost the connection with Farhan. So probably see if he connects within a minute or so, we will wait. If not, then we will proceed ahead. Farhan, are you there? Okay, we won't waste much of the time because we're committed somewhere else again. Dr. Abdul Hai, if he's there, please, Abdul Hai, he's the man behind this all activities. Abdul Hai, Professor Abdul Hai is the man behind all these webinar activities. I'm just simply the shaping it. It's he who has taken these, the activities, not only the webinars and all that, but other cleaning drives and other activities. He's looking after that. He's a busy man. I do realize that. But I think it's the time for Abdul Hai just to have some words with our audience over here on this day. Abdul Hai, Professor Abdul Hai, you are there, please. Yes, you unmute yourself, please. A real man behind this show, Abdul Hai, unmute yourself, please.
Assalamu alaikum, sir. Assalamu alaikum, sir.
हाँ राजा फरहान,
वाईफाई का ये हो गया था, पीछे से ही कुछ हो गया था, तो मैंने मोबाइल नेट पे से कनेक्ट किया.
Okay, I will request Dr. Professor Abdul Hai just to wait for few minutes. Raja Farhan, you go ahead quickly, please.
I will share some success stories, and I will also share, unfortunately, some sad stories related to the ecosystem. See, in our Kashmir, the water is the main resource. So, but we had damaged both the water bodies, and we had damaged the fishes that are present in it. This is because we want the rainbow trout for the commercial purposes. But this rainbow trout, it has been listed as the most, non-native invasive species in case of water bodies, in case of water ecosystem. But I mean, yeah, we need it for the commercial purposes also. So we can do it. We can make a confined rare mat of this, so that those confined rare mats, they can be destroyed at the later stage without destroying the native species of the Kashmir. So the problem is that you may be saying that why do we need the native species? The native species, they act as a link between the other species. If they are lost, the other species are also lost. Suppose for I take an example, as Hasib took the example, see, if there is overpopulation of rodents, what happens? Our all the food resources, they are damaged, and it's estimated that 25% of the food resources and the food supplies, mainly grains, they are destroyed by fungus. They are destroyed by the rats. That can, so if we save that 25, even if we are able to save only 10% of those food resources, we can feed all the poor people that sleep hungry. So this is why the native species, even if they indirectly save the other species. That's what we need to understand. This is for sustainable living, the sustainable living of every creature, including human beings. At least if we do not do it for others, we can do it for ourselves. But I'm not going to share only this. For example, I say you the Irish famine. It is the greatest famine that took place till now recorded, the greatest famine. About 25% of the airland population, got affected. 10% died and 10% left. This led to a permanent change in the demographics, politically, everything. This was due to a potato blight, and the cause was excessive rainfall due to that. This is because at that time, people used wood at unprecedented rate. So that led to the excessive rainfall, which led to a potato blight. And at that time, the staple food of the airland was potato. So this is what happens if we destroy the ecosystem. And recently you can see Ethiopian famine in 1983-85. It led to a civil war. Just within the 2 years, it led to a civil war, and they are not able to recover from the civil war till now because there were drought. The drought was due to the less rain. So if we don't respect the ecosystem, human race is at a risk. But I will share you some of the success stories also, like you see the bison, American bison. I mean, the conservation of the bison led to the creation of first national park, Yellowstone. You may be knowing better than me. There were 540 bisons left in the world. Like we have Hangul, we have 200 Hanguls, but we are only conserving by the Hangul by name. We are not doing it on the field, actually. There were only 550 bisons, and today there are more than 5 million bisons in the wild only, and in the rare there are more. What they did, they removed the top predators. How they did it, I mean, that's not the topic this time. The topic is that by saving the bison, the Yellowstone National Park got created, and many countries were influenced by this to save the species. Just see like gharials in case of India, they were inspired by this story, and it was a critically endangered species, crocodile, wild crocodile, which are known as gharials in India. It was critically endangered species in India, and now it is the least concern. And the inspiration was the wild bison. So, like for the water, we have water resources here, so we should conserve it in such a way that, like I will give you an example of water resource. There, you know the Thames River of England, yeah, which passes through the London. Due to the World War II, there was destruction everywhere, and the river Thames was the most affected water body in the world. It was declared biologically dead, like Dead Sea. No species, no living creature could sustain it. And due to the continuous effort, I mean, it did not take them 1 or 2 years. It took them like 60 years. And today, in 2010, it won the International Thesis River Prize for outstanding restoration process. And the restoration process is not just that they restored it and yeah, they left it. No, they maintain it even today. More than 300 tons of waste and mostly, I mean, non-biodegradable plastics are removed from it every year. So for me, I think the restoration of the ecosystem is not sufficient. We should restore and maintain the ecosystem. First, we need to maintain the ecosystem that we have. Because if we restore the ecosystem, but on the other hand, we are destroying the ecosystem at a greater pace, so there is no fun. So the ecosystem that's present around us, there is always hope. See, I said you there are success stories also. There's always hope that we can save. We can start from the zero, and inshallah we'll make it to 100%. Just like the river Thames, it was declared biologically dead, and today it has, I mean, the 50% in it more than it had ever, because of the continuous effort. And you see, London is a growing city. It is present in the main city, London, and that is, I mean, main city. The population you see there, and you see our small rivers here, our Dal Lake. The population is not as which is present in the London, but you see the destruction here. This is because we do not do it by the heart. We do it. This is because we are government employees, and we need to show to the government, yeah, we did that. Until we do not have the pain for the wildlife in our heart, we do not have pain for the humanity. We do not have pain for the poor people. I don't think that we can be successful in any aspect, be it ecosystem or other. Since we have the ecosystem restoration distance, so we need to have the pain for without speaking. And in case of I mean, majority of us in this webinar are Muslims. I mean to say, it's not only the Islam or every religion, teaches us to respect every creation, not only humans, every creation. And we need to look at it. A Muslim can never be a Muslim, or a non-Muslim can never be a no, unless it does not respect every species. By every species of wildlife, I mean plants or animals, in a way to conserve them. So at last, I would say progress is impossible without change, and those who cannot change their minds cannot change anything, be it ecosystem restoration. That was all. Thanks.
Thank you, Farhan. Well, I do agree with you. We need to have a pain. Yes, if you have a pain for respect to the environment, you can do wonders. That's the need of the hour. That's good to hear you over here. Now, I think Professor Abdul Hai is with us. Yes, Professor Abdul Hai, may you please unmute yourself and just, yes. Okay, please go ahead with your sharing of wisdom with our participants over here on this day of World Environment Day. We all wish some good points from you and your blessings on this day. Go ahead, please.
Very good morning to the speakers of today's program and the participants. Actually, this program is being organized globally, and in our valley also in different institutions, this program is being organized today. But actually, you will see that it should not be only the program for the day. It should continue throughout here, because we are concerned with the ecosystem and our, particularly our valley, as Dr. Ramashu has told that how much glaciers have melted, why floods are a routine here now, and what about the wetlands? Wetlands, we have wasted a lot of land. He also told that urbanization is a problem, so we have to go for the vertical expansion, not for the horizontal expansion. Same is true with our livestock flock. We should go for horizontal, vertical growth and not the horizontal. I will cite an example regarding this Dal Lake. In our early childhood days, it was neat and clean water. And there is one tributary that is known as Chuntkul. It starts from Dal Lake and then it goes through Barbarsha to Jahlim. I was almost each and every day, I used to take bath in that Chuntkul near Gaokadal area. But today, you cannot have a dip because it is so much polluted. So we have to think over it. particularly our new generation, they have to think over it, not to pollute these water bodies and rivers. I also, yesterday there was a meeting with our team, and today for this program, we invited student speakers also. So in that, we had some input from the students also, and we will try again when there will be any other day which will be celebrated, and we will include our students in that program. And today we have 3-4 programs going on in the campus. One is Cleanliness Drive, another is the Plantation Drive, and this webinar. Then we have this photography and art competition for the students. So I am thankful to all the organizers, particularly our dean, then ASW, Dr. Sajjad, my team, the Division of Extension, Dr. Afzal Haq Akand, Dr. Shabir Hamdani, and so many workers. They are doing their job, and I wish them best of luck. Thank you.
So, Professor Abdul Hai, thanks for your this brief about your, say, the status of Dal Lake in your childhood. There are so many stories we do also have. Okay, we were having our good stream just nearby my house over here. That was coming from itself from Alasting towards Dal. Via Batakadal and via this our Montabawan, Mandibal, Batakadal and all that. And when we used to come from school at 4 from Naushara, we used to take bath in that stream there. And we used to have Nimaz and all that. We were having there those large stones, the slabs, where we used to take those bath and prayers. Things are not there now. It's simply a simple drain now, and that too in a bad say shape. Anyway, I think these roads are for all of us. We have seen how our natural resources are degrading, and we are responsible for that. We have not taken the care of our surroundings. We have not taken care of our environment. That's all of us are responsible for that. It's not the only government, but we too, as public, we are very much responsible for this degradation of our environment. I think our speaker, next speaker was supposed to be there, M.Y. Zargar. Probably he was some engagements there in Sopor, so he is not available now this time. So we'll be cutting short this meeting now, and it's the time for our ASW, Dr. Sajjad Ahmed. If he is there, it's his obligation and it's rather his duty to just propose vote of thanks for our all speakers as well as the participants who have spared their precious time to be with us this morning for now of half of the day. So Dr. Sajjad, if you are there, you please unmute yourself and go ahead with your vote of thanks.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Well, Assalamu alaikum and a very good morning to all. It's my honor to propose vote of thanks on occasion of the successful webinar being conducted in regard to celebration of World Environment Day at Faculty of Veterinary Science and Animal Husbandry, Shahama today. On behalf of SCOS Kashmir in general and Faculty of Veterinary Science and Animal Husbandry in particular, I pay gratitude and thanks, first of all, to our guest speaker, Professor Shakil Ahmad Ramsu, Dean of Research, University of Kashmir, for sparing his precious time and illuminating our students and making this webinar a success by sharing your in-depth knowledge and insights about environment, earth and ecosystem, and ecosystem restoration strategies with climatic change, depleting of water resources, where discussed desertification of land and air quality, wetlands, solid waste management, then industrialization and disasters vulnerability, were very, in a very professional way, were initiated by sir. Thank you, sir, for sparing your precious time and being with us today. My next thanks goes to Dean, Faculty of Veterinary Science and Animal Husbandry, Professor Tufail Ahmed Pandey, sir, for initiating and providing all the support and for the conduct of this webinar and other series of events which were held today early in the morning, like the plantation drive. And then there were cleaning drive at the campus. And it will be followed by photography, art, and painting competition for students as well. In the COVID scenario around, it was really, really difficult task to get the things arranged well in time. And finally, we could, with the support of the Dean, we could manage it. Thank you, sir, for being supportive. I'm indebted to various event coordinators, Professor Abdul Hai, sir, Professor Zuhur Ahmed Pampuri, sir, who is hosting this event very well, and other members who were directly or indirectly associated. And also, I thank Professor Shahnaz, Said Shahnaz ma'am, and Dr. Mehraj Adil Khan, sir, for being the event coordinator of this program. Lastly, I thank all the speakers among the students, Dr. Amreen Hamdani, Dr. Abrar Malik, Hasib Saqib, and Raja Farhan for expressing their views about the environment and the ecosystem. I do pledge with Dr. Amreen Hamdani for doing my level best for restoration of the ecosystem for the next decade if I live, if God wills. Thank you, Amreen, for this wonderful presentation. We are highly grateful. I further thank all the students who participated in this webinar and made this a success. Inshallah, those who register well in time will get the each certificates. We are highly grateful and thankful to the Zoom platform for providing us this online platform so that this webinar was a success and we could manage it well in time. Lastly, I thank one and all. Please take care and be safe, and love and do something for this environment and ecosystem. Thank you, sir. Allah Hafiz. Back to our host, Professor Zuhur Ahmed Pampuri, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Sajjad. Okay, I think now this is time to leave, and with all my good wishes and happy this day, Environment Day. And I wish you all a safe and healthy life. Thank you all. Now I am ending this meeting.